I have a bit of a problem. You see, let me introduce you to my little friend. This right here, this sexy lady right here, is my rice cooker. I've had this girl for 10 years, okay? I love it. It's a survivor. It's been with me for 10 years. The problem is, I have a housemaid and she thought it was dishwasher safe. So now I need to replace my rice cooker. And you know what the problem is? The problem is the brand, Cuckoo, has decided to phase out this wonderful model in favor of something called fuzzy logic rice makers. Oh my God, I don't understand why my rice maker needs to have Wi-Fi, but I've learned a lot about rice making in the process.
What's this, Mommy?
It's a fuzzy rice cooker.
Fuzzy?
Yes, it's a rice cooker with a brain. It can think.
Introducing the new rice cooker from National with a built-in Fuzzy Logic microprocessor.
You sure think quietly.
The Fuzzy Logic gives the rice cooker a human touch, adjusting the cooking heat for perfect rice. The National Fuzzy Rice Cooker.
Will you help me with my homework?
That ad is just bananas. It's insane. It's a crazy ad. It's from the 80s, so they were already pushing smart machines onto us 40 years ago. You see, the little girl is asking the rice cooker at the end for help with her homework because this rice cooker is smart. You see, they didn't have the catchy phrase smart rice cooker back then, so they were advertising this as fuzzy logic rice cookers. Oh boy, and I'm going to explain to you something that will be very useful for your day-to-day life, which is understanding why these mechanical machines are superior to anything digital. We don't need to slap a screen on everything around us. I'm going to explain the difference between the two and why this is superior. But I'm also going to go further than that, because this whole rice cooker thing took me down a rabbit hole that basically showed me that humanity's future is doomed. Humanity will be razed from the face of the earth by AI. And I want to take you down this rabbit hole. We're going to take a very vertical walk down the rabbit hole that connects rice cookers and humanity's doom, okay? Okay, let's start at the beginning. This is my rice maker. This is a mechanical device, okay? As you can see, it is extremely simple. See, it has just one button. That's the whole thing. It has two settings, and this will make perfect rice every single time, provided that you add the right ratio of water to rice, okay? Every single time, perfect rice. Now, what is a digital rice cooker then? Okay, a digital rice cooker looks nothing like this. Digital rice cooker has a whole bunch of buttons in the front, a screen, and it has a whole bunch of programs. It allows you to cook rice at your preferred texture. Do you like it al dente? Do you like it softer? Are you planning on making mochi out of this rice? Do you want to do chickpeas instead? We can do chickpeas. How about a whole paella? We can fit it in. As you can probably imagine, it is not as simple as putting the rice in and plugging the thing on the wall and pushing a button. No, you have to learn. You have to learn and study the manual before you can start using that thing, because it's Kafkaesque. Honestly, Kafkaesque. All you have to do is figure out your way through this labyrinthine settings menu. They have so many different things that you can customize. It's, quite frankly, a very big headache. And the way it works is it has a computer inside. It has a computer that somebody has programmed with the timing, okay? The timing. They went and did a bunch of tests or figured out what the best temperature and time it is to cook all kinds of grains, and they put that inside the rice cooker, and then when you're going to cook something, It consults the information and provides the right time and temperature. Fine, that's fine. That's fine. But you know what? We had a much more elegant solution to the same problem. You see, the mechanical option right here, the mechanical is so much better. It's so much more simple, you see. Take a look at this. This is a mechanical rice cooker. It has a single button. Rice cooker on, rice cooker off. It has two settings, cook and warm. And if you want to turn it off, what do you have to do? You unplug it. That's it. That's it. You wash the rice, put the rice in here, put the right amount of water in here, close it, plug it, button down, 20 minutes and you're done. Lunch is ready. So how do they work? Like I said, the digital one has a computer. How does this work? How does this know how long to cook the rice for? How does it give you perfect rice every time? I'll tell you, it's so elegant, you're not going to believe it. You see, inside of this, there's this little pod, but on the inside, it has this thing that you can push, right? And inside, there is a bunch of mechanisms like springs and stuff. And basically, it works with magnets and temperature. Magnets have a thing called the Curie point. That means that a magnet will stop working if you heat it to the Curie point. So the magnet attracts metal, but if you heat it up, it'll stop attracting metal until it cools off again. I am not an expert on magnets, by the way, but this is what I could figure it out by reading about this. So you put in the rice, you put in the water, and the rice starts to cook. What happens here is the water never gets hotter than 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 Celsius. What happens is when it reaches that temperature, water starts to evaporate. But even if you heat it up more, that doesn't mean the water is going to go up. It's going to boil faster. That's it. So once the water is fully evaporated and all you have left is cooked rice, then the temperature can rise above 212 degrees. And so they put in a magnet with a Curie point higher than 212. And that magnet is what allows the current to go through on the inside of the rice cooker. So once the water is completely absorbed, the temperature rises, the magnet stops working, and so the spring goes off and the rice cooker is off. That's it. You don't need anything else. This mechanical machine doesn't need to know anything, okay? It reacts to input, to stimuli from the actual real world around it, okay? That's what it does. If the temperature doesn't rise, the rice cooker doesn't turn off. And once it does, it's off and your rice is perfectly cooked. It doesn't need a computer, it doesn't need a screen, it doesn't need anything else. It's just a trick of using magnets and the properties of water, and that's it. And it's wonderful. Every rice cooker in the past was a mechanical rice cooker. All of them, Toshiba and all of the big Japanese companies were making mechanical rice cookers. They were perfect. Nobody needed to do chickpeas on a rice cooker. Nobody does anyway. So why did we see them go from this to the other type of rice cooker? Well, it's because everybody already had a mechanical rice cooker. Everybody had one. So how are you going to convince people to pay you more money? Well, you have to shock them into it. You have to tell them, well, we have something that's new, it's better. It's new, it's better. It's going to make you look much better in front of your friends. We call it fuzzy logic. Here it is. You can make paella in it. And that's how humanity went from something simple, elegant, and quite smart, quite witty, to the stupid, smart machine that stops you from thinking. And the worst part of this is it is extending to every area of your domestic life, because now You can't even get a washer for your clothes without pre-programming on. The washing machine is already smarter than you. Smarter than your kids, for sure. They can ask the washer machine for help with their maths. I tried to get a normal washing machine. Why? Because I know about laundry, okay? I know the temperature that I can wash my clothes in so that they don't shrink. I know when I can wash them with hot water so that the stains come off. I know the type of chemicals that I can apply according to the textile. I know how aggressive I can go with a spin cycle according to the different fabrics. But all of this knowledge is now useless, you see, because the last time my washing machine broke down and I wanted to replace it, there was not a single option at the store that didn't come with pre-programmed stuff in it. So I couldn't choose the temperature, and I couldn't choose the spin cycle, and I couldn't choose any of these things. They were chosen for me. All I could do was choose like the name of the program, and the names didn't even make sense. You had like Freedom Wash. They were like Freedom Wash, Dry Wash, Couple Wash, Pet Wash. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Give me the normal options. Allow me, please, to be the person who chooses. I remember the washing machine of my childhood. It didn't have programs. It didn't have a computer inside, okay? It was mechanical. It had a thing that spun in the middle of it, and it had a lid, and it had a button on and off. And it was up to you, you see? It was up to you to see like how long you're gonna let that thing spin, how much detergent you were going to add to this wash, to this load. It was up to you. Now you can choose. It's chosen for you. Even vacuums. We have vacuums now that have computers so sophisticated that they can map out your entire apartment. They can map out your entire apartment so that they can more efficiently, independently vacuum cars. Cars is another thing. When I was a child, I remember the day I found out that cars had a computer inside of them. I didn't understand how that goes. My father had his car stolen, or was it my mom? I don't know. My dad or my mom, they drove Mitsubishis. And apparently, Mitsubishis were very sought out by burglars because they had very expensive computers inside. And my parents' cars got stolen just so they could take out the computer and then resell it. And that's how I realized that cars had computers in them. And I asked my dad, what do you mean computers in them? Like, aren't cars very old technology? They didn't have computers back then. So they must be like, they don't need computers to actually work. What does the computer do? And for the life of me, I don't remember what my dad said. He always had an answer for everything, but I don't think he knew what the computer was doing in this case. It's stupid to me that if you can have a car that works without a computer, why do you have to slap a computer inside of the car? It doesn't make sense. I don't understand. Let's keep things witty, elegant, and simple. That's my opinion. And you want to know why? Because a car with a computer, if you put a computer inside a car, then there's so many different parts. It becomes so complex. And it has so many moving parts that if anything goes out of order, your entire car is broken. You see? Same thing with a rice maker. This rice maker lasted for 10 years. Why? Because it's very simple. It's very simple. It's a magnet, it's a button. Here's the problem with adding computers to everything around you. It's not just that it is inconvenient, because now you have to learn all of these programs, which is also a fair point to make, but also it makes them susceptible to all kinds of malicious activity on the part of bad actors. Like you could be spied on through your appliances. Do you think nobody has offered Roomba or Dyson money to get the information from their vacuums, like to get a blueprint of everybody's houses? Everyone's homes mapped out by Dyson and Roomba. Surely somebody has offered them something for that. So we're being spied on by our appliances that didn't even require Wi-Fi to begin with. Why are we doing this? And what is making this hellish landscape possible? So I started thinking, and I realized that the problem was transistors. Transistors are the thing that made it possible for you to add a computer into a blow dryer. Okay? It was transistors. So a lot of people think that if they had a time machine and they could travel back in time and save humanity, they would go back to baby Hitler in his cot and murder him. I have a better place that you can go to exercise murder and save humanity. I would go to Boston in 1947, and I would murder the hell out of the telephone company, because those were the people responsible for all of this insanity. They created the transistor. Okay? The transistor made it possible for all of this to happen. So I'm going to explain this to you in my own particular bimbo way. And because I am a woman and I don't have full grasp of all of this, if you detect something that I said is wrong, please say it in the comments. But what I understand of all of this is the transistor is basically acts like a switch. It allows, amplifies, or kills the flow of current. And the novel thing about the transistor was that it allowed us to make things much, much smaller and to pile on many more transistors altogether. So it allowed us to do much more complex things in much less space. What we had before the transistor was something called the vacuum tube. And the vacuum tube, in essence, did the same thing a transistor does, which is act like a switch that allows for electrons to pass through and enables or disables the pass of that current. The thing is that the vacuum tube was pretty big. It was like a light bulb, and it was like an orb made out of glass, and it was a vacuum inside, and the electrons could move freely because it was a vacuum. But the problem was they heated up a lot, so you had to space them out. You couldn't put them all together in a tiny place because it was a hazard. So they had to be spaced out, and that is why computers were so big. They occupied an entire room. You couldn't have like a laptop without transistors. It would have weighed tons. So before the transistors, we could have computers. They were just very limited in the complex tasks they could do, and they occupied a lot of space. And after the transistors, we had the explosion of the digital world. One difference between the two is that while vacuum tube is analog, the transistor uses binary code. So it basically translates the input, the data, into binary code, into ones and zeros. Ones and zeros tell the switches what to do, turn on, turn off. And so everything around you in reality had to be translated into this binary code so that it could be fed into the transistors. You see? The problem is the real world does not work with a binary logic. It's not on and off. Things are a gradient. There's texture. And you can feel and you can sense this texture when you're interacting with the real world. The moment that you turn the real world input into binary, into ones and zeros, you have to make decisions constantly of what is relevant enough to be included in the binary code and what you have to leave out. So there is a loss of gradient, there is a loss of information. The fidelity to reality is lost, you see? And the thing making these decisions, what is worth encoding and what we have to discard, is not a person, it's the computer itself. So by synthesizing reality, we're losing much of what it makes reality beautiful. This can be seen very easily when you take into account, for example, cameras. You have film and an analog camera, and you have a digital camera. And while you can take a very similar picture in both, and they look very much the same, when you pay attention to the details, you see that the digital camera clips a lot a lot of the information out. It clips out anything that is too bright. Meanwhile, the film allows for all of these little nuances, preserves all of these little nuances within the film. And when the binary code digital camera tries to be as high fidelity as it can, then it goes all the way to the other side, encoding way more than we want it to. The things that are absorbed by shadows in film are often very well depicted in a digital photo. Like you look into the shadows and you can see every detail within them, ruining the mystery for the person who's viewing the picture. And it's the same with music. It's the same. Why do you think people want to listen to music in vinyl? Why do you think people prefer to record in a non-digital way, in an analog way? It's because of the same thing. When you use analog, you're taking samples of reality and it can be mapped out point by point. But when you use a transistor, when you use binary, then information gets clipped one way or the other. It has to fit into ones and zeros. There's a lot sacrificed in the process. So to me, the moment things started to go sideways is very clear. It is very clear to me when things started to depart from reality, from nature, and started to become much more of a simulacra, if you will. And it was the creation of the transistor. And the problem is, the creation of the transistor is what is enabling us to create computers and to reach for intelligence, for AI, which will eventually, if we follow what we know, is going to wipe out humanity. So now, my beautiful rice cooker that is mechanical and has served me so well for 10 years is being phased out to make way for not only fuzzy logic rice cookers, but the next iteration, which should be about to drop any minute now, the AI rice cooker. This will be a rice cooker that is able and capable of cooking your rice while telling you about the latest news. And not only that, it'll tell you which types of rice you should be eating. And if you ask him to cook a rice that it deems inappropriate, it'll refuse to cook this rice for you. It'll also invent new ways to cook rice just for you. And you will only notice that it has been hallucinating the recipe all along when your rice is ruined and you open the lid and it's serving you rice pudding. That's what's coming. That's what's in store for us, AI vacuum, AI rice maker, AI washing machine, AI everything around your house. You're no longer capable of making the simplest choices because we will going to have smart appliances make the decisions for you. And I've been looking at this whole AI thing with a little bit of concern. Like, a part of me didn't want to believe that AI was actually possible. And I am not convinced yet that it is, but I don't like the way this is going. I don't feel very reassured that humanity is not going to end in a miserable dystopia, that we're not going to end up fighting a war against AI. And the reason that learning about my rice cooker made me change my mind a little about AI is the fact that I realized that it works with binary code. And it feels very metaphysically heavy to me. Okay? It feels like a new creation. You see? The creation, the one we live in, is supposedly started with a binary split, the yin and the yang, the Shakti and Shiva, And me seeing this thing act in ones and zeros is not very reassuring to me in my woo side of my brain. And do you know who catched onto this way before me, way before any of us, way before the 80s rice cooker ad I showed you? Frank Herbert, the author of Dune. You see, in Dune, they went through this in Dune. This already happened in Dune. We know where this is going, okay? The Butlerian Jihad was the war between people and machines, when somebody was smart enough to create AI. And that led humanity to a very bloody war. And then to come up with a very simple and logical law. No one should build a machine in the likeness of humans. It's logical, it's obvious. Nobody should be attempting to replace the human brain with a machine, because this is dangerous territory. Dangerous territory. How did it work in the world of Dune? Very simple. They banned transistors. The devil, transistors, banned, okay? Instead of that, they continued to have analog and mechanical machines, because those are your friends. Those are actual tools that you can use. They're not going to replace you. They don't have a mind of their own. And they're not encoding your entire world in terms that do not resemble it, okay? There's a connection between a mechanical machine and the world. You see, my rice cooker, it takes into account water, it takes into account the temperature, the actual temperature, okay? And so what did they do? Well, if they wanted to do very difficult, complicated computations, they actually trained the geniuses of the world and turned them into something called mentats. I don't know if you saw the movie. I mean, maybe you didn't read the books, but maybe you saw the movie. The guys in the movie with like the weird lip thing. Yeah, those were very important people. They had, like, each great family had one, because they could do the difficult computations in their brain. That way, nobody needed computers anymore. I'm not sure that we're ever gonna resemble Dune, but I hope we do, because the alternative is to disappear from the face of the earth. Now, that got me thinking that there is another franchise that adopted mentats within its lore, and that is Fallout. Fallout, the video game, takes place in a dystopian future. And in this dystopian future, I know most of you are familiar with Fallout, so I'm not going to go into detail with Fallout. But I don't know if you knew this, but Fallout has a divergent timeline. There was a point in the 50s where the timeline split. So the humanity's timeline goes this way, and the Fallout story goes that way. And the breaking point between the two was a little bit after transistors were invented. So transistors existed, but they never got the chance to become widespread or even used in many applications. So the world of Fallout is actually a world without digital machines. Everything is analog. That is why it is so eerie and so different from our world. So here we have two visions of the world without the digital component in it. Okay, we have two different visions of the future. And I believe we create our own future, and the stories we tell ourselves about the future often crystallize and become true. So looking at Dune and looking at Fallout, I am not very reassured that transistors were such a good idea to begin with. So if there was a trolley heading down the tracks towards 5 people that were tied up and unable to move, and there was a lever, and there was another track where just one single person was tied up, I would push the lever, provided that one person was instrumental in the creation of the transistor. Or rather, I would allow a vacuum tube to push that lever instead of me.